Join Chris and Suzanne Vester today on Faith, Family, Fulfillment as they lead discussions on creating a strong bond and having a loving relationship through Christian values. Guests on the show share insightful stories and ideas to enhance a positive family upbringing and create trust in one another, as well as providing encouraging words of wisdom everyone should hear. And now, here are Chris and Suzanne.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Faith, Family, Fulfillment. I am your co-host, Chris.
And I'm Suzanne.
And we are going to hit another piece of the episode series that we started last week, which was about
Rethinking How You Look at New Year.
Yeah.
Is the title, but it's a whole lot bigger than just a new year.
Yeah, it's new you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll pray and we'll get started.
Okay.
Lord, as always, we thank you for this opportunity to come together, spend some time with one another, unpacking the lessons that we've learned through a lot of hard trials and tribulations and just testing of things sometimes. We hope that everyone sees that you get all the glory in the story. I ask that you lead and guide us in all the questions and all the conversation. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Mm-hmm. So I get to play the role of interviewer.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure how much I like that, but we'll try it.
I'm constantly interviewing you.
Yes, you are.
It's an ongoing thing. So last time we talked about how to kind of get started, and I'm just going to revisit a couple of those points.
Okay. Just
for reinforcement.
Okay.
So in order to kind of get started in the way that you're coaching people through the leadership component, we talked about core values, mission statements, and standards.
Yeah, your standards.
So I'm gonna watch my clock here.
Okay.
Explain each of those. Go.
Core values. It's easy. It's what you value, and you can figure out what you value by what you spend your most of your time on, or what you enjoy most. That's where we start, because each one of those activities boils down to a feeling that it gives you, and that feeling kind of points to a value.
Okay. Mission statement.
Mission statement. So I use the core values as to piecing together a statement that you decide is going to be how you live your life. Businesses have them all the time. Like our mission statement in our business, or our purpose statement in our business, is to enrich every life we touch by providing an incredible leadership experience. And then we say we do that by, and we name off our core values.
Mm-hmm.
For me, my personal standard statement is purpose statement.
Well, mission statement. We hadn't gotten to a standard yet.
Yeah, well, that's setting a new standard with your purpose statement.
Okay. Don't confuse people.
I'm not. It's so creating that new statement that you decide to live by. And it's, I'm a bold man who acts with integrity and from love, and I stand as a beacon pointing to God's grace and mercy. So in every situation, I can measure the activity that I'm involved in, or the activity I'm participating in, or the decision I'm getting ready to make, and say, hey, is it bold? Is it showing an integrated life? Is it coming from a place of love? And does it shine a light as a beacon pointing to God's grace and mercy? So it's real easy after you've dug that deep.
All right. So what standards?
So I think that the mission statement points to a set of standards. It's saying this is what I'm going to live by. That's the standard. It's the new standard of my life. And I think it's okay as you evolve for the mission statement, purpose statement to evolve. Because mine's evolved even since I created it just 2 years ago, in getting shorter, more concise, more to the point.
You do like words.
I do like words. Anybody who's listened to more than 2 episodes of this has figured out I'm the talker. I do like words. But yeah, it's just setting a standard by which to live by. And I said, when we're going through creating that statement, if at the end of your life and there's someone standing over you in a box or an urn or whatever, and they said that about you, but you feel like that's a life well lived. So that's kind of where we head with it. They don't, I mean, after the first one in the room gets it, they create theirs. Everybody else knows where we're going to end up, but it's neat to see the light bulbs go off when they put things in their statement about being family oriented or focusing on creativity or becoming trustworthy or a leader, or like all these things that we dial into by the process. It's pretty fun to watch the light bulbs go off.
Okay. And then we talked a little bit about vision,
Mm-hmm.
and the key component of vision is starting with the end in mind.
Yes.
We also talked a bit about where that can be problematic for folks who are visioning something that they've not lived in yet.
Yes.
And we talked about a few ways to not go backwards, because we don't ever want to go backwards in the process, but readjust into something that they have experienced that would be closer to their end results.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say that correctly?
Yeah. So it's, it's akin to climbing a mountain. Now you set this vision of what it's going to look like at the top of the mountain, and then you look and there's another mountain ahead of you. So it's kind of like, well, I've never been to the top of that mountain before, but there's somewhere you've been that you can envision that. Let's get back to there, and then let's look and say, hey, okay, what's the next mountain? Getting centered around somewhere they've been before.
Okay. And we spent quite a bit of time talking about how to phrase things.
Mm-hmm.
I am or I have.
Yes.
In four areas. So mental, spiritual, physical, relationship, and legacy.
Yes.
So I'm not going to go back into all of those.
Okay. They can go back and listen to
Yes, I think we covered those pretty extensively. So two things that when we were talking about putting this together that you mentioned, I think really kind of deserve their own time.
Okay.
Because this is where people are going to get in trouble, in my opinion. So you said that folks have a great affinity for overestimating what they can get done and underestimating the amount of time it'll take.
Yes.
So I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
You've probably seen it a lot.
Yeah, once or twice. Once or twice. But everyone has, when people vision things out, they tend to forget how they are. Like they tend to forget their natural inclinations of how they do things. Mm-hmm. So they think all of a sudden when they set this vision and they put this intention, on paper, that somehow they are going to miraculously overnight become a 20x productive member of society. Right. And they're going to get 100 things done every day.
Like all the roadblocks that were there before they wrote it down are going to just disappear.
Right. It's magic. Like putting pen to paper makes all of those different things that are going to pop up. Those things called life, by the way. Right. They're not going to be a part of the prep process anymore. So there's not going to be, kids aren't going to get sick. The dog's not going to throw up on the carpet. Your car's not going to have the gas light on and you forgot to get it the night before. You're not going to wake up late, or it's going to be raining outside or whatever. None of those things are going to happen, because once you put pen to paper, you have this magical utopia, right? Mm-hmm. We all know that's not true. But folks underestimate how long something is going to take. So we'll use, weight loss as an example, because that's something that's fairly relative, but people forget how long it takes to change a habit, replace that habit with a new habit, and then be consistent with that habit to see progress. Like they think they're going to do it in 10 days, 30 days. And then when it doesn't happen, that's when the frustration sets in. So that's my viewpoint on overestimating and underestimating. So what is your viewpoint on that?
So, one of the questions that I've posed before, and I will use physical body because it's I think it's the one that's most easily relatable. That like I've had it's amazing some of the things that people aim for, like body fat percentages and size changes and all that. And anytime it's too big of a bite to chew, like I said, the overestimation, I always say, well, how long did it take you to get here?
Mhm.
And like, they're like, what do you mean? Okay, well, this magic weight you're talking about, or the size jeans you want to be back into, or this body fat percentage you're aiming for, the last time you were there to now, what's that timeline look like? And it's usually years.
Mm.
So you're going to magically reverse years of accumulation of small bad habits in 12 weeks.
Mm.
So a light bulb kind of goes off there and allows me to say, hey, most of the time we overestimate what we can get done,
Mm-hmm.
and we underestimate the amount of time it's going to take us to get it done.
Right. And I want to touch on something that you said that I think is important. So when you're in the process of unpacking that, like you just said, how long did it take you to get here? How many years sometimes of bad habits have compounded to get you
how many Krispy
here?
Kremes did it take to get here?
Yeah. So the inverse of that is also correct. How many new habits are you going to have to put in place and allow to compound in order to walk that back?
Right.
That's what I don't think folks have a really clear understanding of. However many bad ones got you here, you can't just do away with them. You have to replace them. So you can't just pull something off the table. You have to put something back. How many of those are you going to have to actually put into practice intentionally? Because the bad ones creep in pretty easily most of the time. You don't really think about them. They just kind of are.
Well, they're super comfortable. So
it's
easy for that to happen.
Yeah. But the end, like that, there's a definite give and take on that one.
Mm.
So whatever got you here, you just have to understand that it's going to take at least that many going in the other direction to compound it.
Yeah. And I can say, and I've had this conversation more than once. Like people automatically want to go to, well, I've never had the discipline to do X. I've never had the discipline to exercise. I've never had the discipline to work out. I've never had the discipline to read. I've never had the discipline. And I look at them and I say, no, you're very, very disciplined. And they look at you like you got 4 heads.
No, actually 5.
Yeah. And like, what do you mean I'm disciplined? You're 100% disciplined to the habits you have now.
Correct.
Like, so they have discipline. Mm-hmm. So the idea is just reworking what you're disciplined to.
Yes.
And to your point, like, let's list all the habits that are not serving you. What are we going to replace that with? Visually, you can look at like a set of scales. Okay. You got the scales of justice in front of you. This is the bad habit and this is the good habit. Right now, that bad habit is outweighing the good. Like, what are you going to put on the scales to tip it back in the right direction? Mm-hmm. And if they say, well, like, what are you doing right now? Like, well, I'm not exercising. Okay, well, how much exercise are we putting in place? Mm-hmm. Right? Or like, I'm always eating dessert. Okay, well, like, what's the opposite of that? Like, it's not hard to identify the bad habits. The hard thing is like defining the new one that doesn't cause enough discomfort that they're willing to abandon the vision. Mm.
And I think that's where it's important to look at what is one small shift you can make this week that you can do every day. Let's put that into practice. And if that is simply, rather than having a 20-ounce Coke or your soft drink of choice or whatever it is, or whatever sugary coffee beverage you decide to indulge in. Right. If it's a 20 ounce, okay, well, could you get by with 10? You're still getting it. You're just getting less of it. So, I mean, those shifts can be just that simple.
Well, it's small incremental shifts over time.
Yes.
Like that's exactly what gets people disciplined to bad habits is small incremental shifts over an expansion of time. Mm-hmm. So the exact same thing holds true to moving things in the right direction. It's small incremental shifts over the course of time. Mm-hmm. And it's people have never thought about it that way. They think it's got to be a drastic change. It's got to be right now. It's got to be like okay, well, let's just readjust the thinking. Mm-hmm. Right. What's one thing we can do?
Right. Because those do compound significantly over time.
Well, you use the example of drinks, usually it's happened in more than one occasion where people are, they're drinking 7 or 8 soft drinks a day, full sugar soft drinks. Well, then you do the math on the calories in that. And if they just cut that out, it's 3 or 4 pounds a week difference based on based on calories. I know the math is not that simple, but it's a place to start.
Right.
And then, okay, well, if it's 3 or 4 pounds a week, if it's just half that, like if your body only adjusts by dropping half that, 2 pounds in a week, and you do that over 12 weeks, that's 24 pounds just by switching to water.
Or having less.
Or cutting it, rather than 7, can you do 3, and then watching it shift over time. But yeah, and without fail, every single time that's been in action, there's been massive shift in their well-being, in the way they feel, their overall health, and it's been in their mind very quick. They forget 12 weeks passes quickly.
Yeah, true. Anything else you want to say on that?
No, it's good.
Okay. So the second thing that we kind of hit on when we were sitting down and I was grilling you, for lack of a better word, we talked about low-hanging fruit versus hard things. So define low-hanging fruit first.
I said it a while ago. What's the thing that's going to cause the least amount of discomfort that we know we can stick with? That's the lowest hanging fruit. Because I think you graduate away from that over the course of time.
I think you run out of them.
Yeah, of the low hanging fruits. Yeah. But I mean, the drinks is an example. If you just point out to somebody that can be a low hanging fruit. Movement, just changing the way you move. But the reason I would choose the lowest hanging fruit first is, number one, it's probably the thing that's going to cost the least amount of pain, but get the quickest visible or tangible return on the investment. So, like low hanging fruit, when dealing with a relationship, like I said, the majority of them pick their kids, they'll practice on their kids first. And then they go to the wife and, like asking them, what was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of your day? And what's the thing you didn't see coming? Just to generate conversation. Conversation changes relationship. Small incremental conversations over time changes relationship. So finding the thing that's causes the least amount of pain in the beginning, so that you get some return on that investment quickly, so that the reward, the dopamine hit, comes from having the win of seeing some results, which will lead you to lean into things when it gets a little harder.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, how to keep people from getting complacent with those low-hanging fruit wins?
Well, that's the reevaluation process after the 12 weeks.
Well, okay, true.
Right.
Okay, but I'm going to play devil's advocate for a minute.
Right.
So let's say you've got somebody who is perfectly content to continue finding low-hanging fruit, like almost even creating some low-hanging fruit to avoid having to do the hard things, or either using the excuse of their life circumstances, or you throw in the, whatever, we go there. How do you keep them from settling with just solving those low-hanging fruit concerns and problems and not taking that next step? Because that's a mental shift in order to take that next step.
I think it goes back to asking the questions, in that initial interview discussion where we're trying to figure out the problems they're trying to solve in those 4 areas. Like if they name a low hanging fruit, it's asking the next step. Because a lot, Jay and I talk about this a lot. Are you fixing the symptom, or are you trying to solve the problem? And something. Yeah. So I know you do. And so asking them, is that a symptom of a bigger problem? And would you rather be cured of the symptom of the disease? So if you're just trying to solve the symptom, the disease is still there that's causing the problem, either not showing up as a person of value, or not leaving legacy, or not having good relationships, or dealing with some type of a block in your mental or spiritual space. Like all of those, you could spend your life solving symptoms and never get to the root of the problem. Absolutely. And so by asking the questions, if you see that it's consistently low hanging fruit they're looking for, it's just the next question is that a symptom of a bigger problem? I haven't seen anybody solve problems that they didn't want to solve. And what I mean by that is they're never going to work at something they're not trying to fix. So they've got to decide, hey, this is important enough to me that I really want to solve it. So at some point, you got to get away from solving the symptoms and try to cure the disease.
At what point do you throw them in the deep end I think you like to call it, sometimes people feel like they're getting punched in the face.
Yeah. So, and that comes from asking questions, because so often, especially in this situation where they're working on a specific relationship and they've moved away from their kids and their spouse, and they'll come in and it's about the conversation or the argument or whatever that happened recently, because we always talk about, hey, what was the win? And what was the win from the past week? And what was the biggest struggle in each area? Or sometimes, hey, it's a struggle in one area and a win in every other. Let's talk about the biggest win. But if the struggle is in the relationship with the spouse or whoever they're working on, and just continually asking the questions, because, the beautiful thing about being a coach for someone, I think that's probably the best word to use, is you're able to see it without being in the mud. You're not in that space with them. So it's easier to see it because you're seeing it with clarity and they're seeing it full of emotion. And so by having that freedom to see it from outside the mud, you can just ask the question about what was the root of that. Like you can, why do you think that? I know it's like we've been to therapy, and therapists never give you an answer. They just keep asking you questions till you find the answer yourself. And I think that's where the punches in the face come from. And even they have said, oh, I got punched in the face today. But I didn't punch them,
You just feel like you're peeling back layers.
You just keep peeling it back until they recognize the fact, oh, I was the idiot. There's so many examples. I'm not going to breach any trust, but there's just so many examples that when we kept going, they go, so like, really, it's just me, And I mean, something that I unpacked today in a situation that happened, and for me, and the realization is the reason that particular thing happened is because I hadn't had enough proactive conversation to keep it from happening. And I recognized it. I didn't have to have anybody ask me the question, but I kept unpacking that particular instance where my gut reaction is just so wrong because of history, and because of the history, then I've got to say, okay, well, knowing that my gut reaction is based on history, like, let's unpack it for what it is right now. And then going and having this, conflict of conversation. And the conversation actually went really, really well because we did unpack where that came from, and then leaving the room going, but I could have solved the problem by just being proactive and having the conversation up front. If I'd have had the proactive conversation up front, then there wouldn't have been a question that I felt like was questioning my ability, because it would have been, oh, okay, I get where you're headed. I see the direction you're going, I see the vision you got, and I'm good with that. But because of my unwillingness or lack of prioritization of having the proactive conversation, like, I was the root of the problem. I think working in the space with other people frees that up for me. Like, I'm not saying I don't need a coach because I have a lot of them, but if you sit with someone long enough and constantly just keep asking them situational questions, eventually what happens is they start to ask themselves those same questions in the moment.
Which is the goal.
That's 100% the goal. It's, hey, do I need this donut right now? That's a great question to ask. If you're trying to control your weight, hey, do I need the donut or can I take a bite? It's not about abstinence. It's in that situation. Sometimes it's just about, hey, I'm going to take a bite. I'm good. If you can be disciplined enough to the habit of taking the bite and then throwing the rest of it away.
And that goes back down to mindfulness.
It does.
Like, how well do you know yourself, your thought processes, your thought patterns, where you've been like historically highly emotional,
right?
And where does that typically lead you? Because we are creatures of habit. Our brain is an amazing organ. I mean, it keeps us upright and above the dirt every day, but it's also very good at recreating old patterns.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So you have to be really mindful of that.
Yeah. So speaking of that, there's actually a book called The Power of Habit. And that actually is about the first man who was ever diagnosed with dementia, who had zero short-term memory. But he was able to wake up, fix himself breakfast, take a walk around the block, and come back to his house and never remember that he woke up, fixed breakfast, and took a walk around the block. He had created such a pattern of habit. Even those habits didn't go away when his brain had started to disease.
Mm.
That's how powerful our mind is.
Mm.
So what happens if we program it in such a way that it's just always reverting back and it defaults to things that serve us, which is what the whole idea behind it is creating this series of examining yourself every so often to create small incremental moves that move you forward in a way that serve you. So,
right. So the second half of that is hard things.
mm-hmm.
So a couple of my takeaways from what I look at when I think of hard things with someone sitting across the table from me. One, is easy to get lost in the weeds because that hard thing is big, like in your mind. It's just something that is going to take so much to overcome, and it actually could be one thing. So you can easily to get kind of lost in the weeds, but it's the highest value action.
Yes.
So in order to keep yourself out of the weeds and get results on that highest value action, you have to have one of two things, or you could have both. You have to have someone who is maybe a peer-to-peer as an accountability partner to keep you, hey, did you work on that today? 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 And just constantly being in your ear so that it's front of mind for you, or having a coach, mentor, someone else who's going to not be in your ear every day, but be looking you in the face every week going, so how are those bad habits serving you right now? Because you've gotten in the weeds on those hard things.
Yeah. And I kind of refer to that a lot of times as doing the work. I mean, I wouldn't say that there's a situation where anybody picks something easy, like because of the questions that are asked and how like I'll give you the low hanging fruit for maybe the first little bit, but there's going to be some evolution that happens just through the questioning process. So it ends up being things that are hard. And it's almost a requirement of having the account. Like you said, you got to have the partner or the coach, one of the two, for accountability purposes. So they're asking you constantly. But that's the recognition that that hard thing does pay the highest dividend and it gives you the biggest reward system, really drives you to doing the next big hard thing.
Right.
Because you've seen, that paid off. And I'll use the ice baths as an example. One of the neatest things about that whole process when we did, I'm going to call it the graduation ceremony. That's not what it was, but they all did public, or they two did a public ice bath because they had just finished 12 weeks and cold exposure was their thing to solve their problem. And then we had two other ones that jumped in.
I'm changing language just a little bit. So not solve a problem, but create some action moving in a better direction.
Okay.
Because I don't think either of those people would say that their problems have been solved.
No, but they've moved in a much better, healthier space.
They have some traction.
Yes, they have traction. But, hearing from 4 points of view, the point of view of one of the 3 points of view of 3 people that had used that to their benefit, like the benefits that they saw by using cold exposure.
Okay.
To help them through things that they struggled with. And then one was a spouse who gave her example of what she saw. And then how that affected a friend of hers who decided to go the same direction and the aha moment that she had. So it even affected people outside their family. It was a ripple effect, but just such a high reward and you're like, oh, well, that worked. It was so excruciatingly painful and so hard. But man, what a huge difference it made. Then the next evaluation, the next set of things, you're going to put a bigger challenge in front of you because you saw the benefit and the return of that big hard thing.
Right.
I know you say all the time, pick your hard.
I do say that a lot.
And there's several people have written about how to do that, and I think one of the better examples, I'm going to look it up real quick, was actually one of our employees posted it up a couple of weeks ago, I guess, about doing hard things, about the benefit of doing hard things. Well, of course, I can't find it. But the poem is, pick your hard. And so she had posted up a part of the poem. And, this is one that Steve Weatherford's talked about it a lot. And it says, choose your hard. Being your best is hard. Being normal is hard. Making wise decisions is hard. Making bad decisions is hard. Being in shape is hard. Being out of shape is hard. Losing weight is hard. Being overweight is hard. Working out is hard. Being weak is hard. Being disciplined is hard. Being lazy is hard. Getting out of your comfort zone is hard. Staying in your comfort zone is hard. Starting a business is hard. Working for someone else is hard. Making a lot of money is hard. Making a little bit of money is hard. Being rich is hard. Being poor is hard. Having great relationships is hard. Having bad relationships is hard. Having friends is hard. Having no friends is hard. Fighting for your marriage is hard. Divorce is hard. Having a lot of things is hard. Having nothing is hard. Living on purpose is hard. Living off purpose is hard. Doing life God's way is hard. Doing life your own way is hard. Everything's hard. Choose your hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, once someone picks something that's really hard that they've never done before and they see, yeah, that was hard, but wow.
I did it anyway.
I did it anyway. And what a return that he gave me.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden they start looking for hard things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I know that's been the case for us.
Well, I know that, we've both been in the physique competition space. I'm far more removed from that than you. It's been like 10 years since I competed.
Yeah, 2012.
Yeah,
wow.
It's been a minute.
Man.
But I will say that going through that process for the years that I did really instilled I would say a profound realization that your body is capable of just so freaking much. And I'll tell you, when the dog broke my leg, I did not break my leg. The dog broke my leg. And I was able to get out of the immobilizer, get off the crutches. And I told you, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go to the barn, which I don't know how far that is from actually our house.
That's 300 yards. Easy 300 yards. Yeah.
So I was 10 days out from the break.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. A whole lot of other background story with that. But I was taken out of the immobilizer, off the crutches. I was like, I'm going to try to walk down to the barn and back. If I don't come back, come get me.
Right.
But knowing that your body is capable, you just can't quit.
Right.
Your mind is capable. You just can't quit. I think a lot of it comes down to you just can't quit.
Right. Yeah. It's one of the things that, Avery going through 75 hard right now. That's, she's just learned. You just got to do it anyway.
Yeah.
I think I sent you that message the other day. You said, yeah, it's raining. I said, or you could just do it anyway.
Yeah. And when we get home tonight, I have my second workout to do.
Wow.
Because it's been a long day.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just can't quit.
You just can't quit.
All right. So we're out of time. On our next one, we're going to kind of tie it all into a bow.
Okay.
I'm going to let you walk folks kind of through the process.
Okay.
Prepare yourself.
All right. Mentally. All right. I can do that.
Do I need to remind you?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. So that everybody can kind of know what it's like to walk through that, that process from start to finish. Because I think we've given a pretty good groundwork
For sure.
on how to get your mind ready for it. But now we need to be really tactile in how we're going to put it into practice. Fair?
Works for me.
Anything else you want to say?
You gonna pray us out with that?
I can.
Okay.
Father God, thank you for the opportunity to share the failures and the successes and the fruit of those, because they're both fruit bearing. We just have to look at them through the right lens, through the right mindset, and we just can't quit. Help us to always be mindful that we might be so close to the breakthrough that we're expecting. We just can't quit. Help us to also always seek your will, seek your guidance, and be prayerful and mindful to those around us. We ask all of these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Faith, Family, Fulfillment, brought to you by Chris and Suzanne Vester. We hope you enjoyed listening to this week's guests and stories. If you liked what you heard, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow Chris and Suzanne on Instagram at HVAUTOCOO and Suzanne.c.vester. That's at SUZANNE.c.vester.